Half-white millionairess Amandla Stenberg, the star, I use that term very loosely indeed, of the Acolyte TV show, has released a music video on social media with a very important message indeed. That message being, she's a victim and Star Wars fans are racisisisisiiiits. Yes, we're playing this game again for the 58th millionth time. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Yesterday, Amandla Stenberg, the titular of Osha and May, twins that were named after a soap manufacturing company in Canada. I know, right? That is probably the level of depth that Leslie Headland, the former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, had when it came to creating names for her characters. It was when I realized this Jedi's name was Tanpax that my suspension of disbelief had been broken. Now, we all know that the show The Acolyte is being mercilessly mocked the internet over, and rightfully so. It's one of the biggest pieces of crap to ever come out of Disney Star Wars, and right now, that is saying something, because we've had Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, which I completely forgot about and missed in one of my videos recently. That is how far down the memory hole that thing fell, and nobody bothered to give Andor a chance because apathy is real and doesn't care about your feelings. The Acolyte has done nothing but serve the fact that Disney Star Wars doesn't give a toss about canon, doesn't give a toss about lore. But what it does give a toss about is making sure that A, white men are nowhere in sight, and B, that there is as much superficial representation as they can possibly cram in. Such a shame none of them come with a personality or character. And I'm not trying to say that there's a
not at all secret gay agenda.
Well, apart from the one, of course, that they admitted to. But if we do look at The Acolyte, we have a showrunner who's a lesbian who hired her wife to be in the cast, who then hired Amandla Stenberg, who identifies as gay, who then hired Charlie Bennett, who's also gay, bringing a coven of communist lesbian space witches, and then they went and did an interview that went a bit like this.
I would say arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. Leslie, how do you feel?
Am I gay? Yes.
Well,
is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure so.
Because nerds are gay.
And when people see things like this, then they say to themselves, what has any of this got to do with Star Wars? To which they've already answered that question for you. It doesn't. It's all about them. It's all about their lifestyles. It's all about pushing that agenda. You mean nothing. They don't care. And therefore, when you do speak out about breaking canon, destroying characters, terrible acting, terrible story, terrible cinematography, terrible editing, then they tend to get a wee bit defensive. In the case of Amandla Stenberg, she wrote a diss track. Yes, one that was so cringe and embarrassing, even Rice Gum would have thrown it out the window. Oh no, watch out folks, that's a face that means business. The only business that I want to do is take a shit after this. I've had way too much coffee. Discourse, something about discourse, No, I can't. I can't do this. It's too cringy. I have to watch episodes of the UK version of The Office after this just to feel less cringe. What? Speak up, darling! I've just understood why there are subtitles on this song. You can't hear a word that she's bloody saying. Also, 20 million views? That's chicken feed, sweetheart. You ought to do a rant about Starfield. Then we're talking numbers. So she brings up the interview she did in 2018, the one that went viral recently, where she said the purpose is to make white people cry. A lot of people thought that it was a recent interview that she was talking about The Acolyte. It wasn't. It was about another film she did. Racist Amandla Stenberg, who's also half white, by the way, just in case I didn't mention that at the beginning of the video, which I did. She stresses that black people cried at the movie because it was about a black boy murdered by police, and white people cried at the movie because they saw black people as human woman. My goodness me, what level of absolute, complete and utter out of touch does a half-white woman in Hollywood have to be to think that? It's absolutely disgusting and vile, but that is Hollywood through and through. You see, the millionaire, half-white Hollywood actress that's been in movies for over 10 years and she's only 25 now is, according to her, a victim. Oh my God. Intersectionality, it's a disease. It's worse than cancer. It's a disgusting, vile disease which is rampant in the West. Narcissists most affected. So Amandla, as you can see from her face there, is absolutely disgusted about being taken out of context. I was just trying to talk about empathy in white people to the black plight, said the half-white woman. But I can be empathetic with being taken out of context. For example, let's just pretend there's a multi-billion-dollar company. We'll call them Disney for this example. And they start to orchestrate campaigns against people that are critical against their dogshit TV shows, calling them racist and sexist and misogynistic and bigots, purely because the writing, the acting, the direction, and everything that belongs to that program is absolute dog shit. In an effort to not take responsibility for their own pathetic work by sticking in agendas which they are clear on,
not at all secret gay agenda,
they decide to take it out on the people who have been fans of this for decades because they want to have actual, interesting, well-written, well-characterized content. So I can definitely empathize you on being taken out of context there, sweetheart. The half-white multi-millionaire actress who's only 25 years old and has been acting in Hollywood for over a decade now decides to talk about the desperation of the oppressors. The only time that this woman has ever been oppressed in her life is when her local Starbucks is out of soy milk. If you rely upon misinformation, then that tells me you're afraid of the truth, she says. I can agree with you, Amandla. Clipping things out of context to create a narrative, I mean, that is the mainstream media way, after all. What concerns me is that your brain is so vile and disgusting that you thought that white people having empathy for your movie was, according to you, white people finally saw black people as human beings. Wow. Where did you debut this movie? At a KKK rally? And now you're listening. Let me tell you something fascinating. Believe me, you are just a lol cow right now to be milked, Amandla, and I am all ears. They spinning woke, bastardize it and appropriate it. Once upon a time, about a decade ago, maybe a dozen years or so, woke actually meant that you'd woken up. You saw things. You saw the truth. What was bastardized is how people who claim to see the truth were actually liars. They fabricated it. They pushed narratives. They tried to distort truth, pervert truth. And so woke in itself became a mockery of the very people that profess to be it. It was turned on itself. Last I recall, woke was something we created. No, it was something you perverted. But close. Speak truth to power. Keep an eye out for you silly racists. Yes, it's a story we've heard a million times over. An actress in power who works for the show that has the power of the IP, that is given the budget by the billion-dollar corporation that has that power, is talking down to fans that have no power. They can't cast it, they can't direct it, they can't edit it, they can't write it, they can't do anything whatsoever apart from one thing: stop watching and stop giving that company money. That's where the power of the customer lies. And if you want to keep calling them racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted, or whatever, because you can't handle criticism just because you're an actress with about as much range as a broken radio on a show that's absolute dog shit, that's not our fault. Sorry, that's your fault, that's your company's fault, your writer's fault, your director's fault, your casting director's fault, and everyone else's fault, not ours. So keep slagging off the fans. See how that works out for you, because the last time I saw Get Woke, Go Broke was in full swing and a tried and tested method of losing customers. According to Amandla, the word woke was actually about the power of community. That sounds about right. Some Californian commie bollocks. Journalists, I'm looking at you. Did you forget it's your job to provide the truth? Amandla, I think we've found some common ground. Yes, mainstream media is a bunch of fucking shite. And I can tell that the people are tired and the kids don't trust anything that they view. Again, I think we're finding some common ground here. Not maybe for the reasons that you think so, but you're a little bit closer to the truth than you truly realize. So there we go, folks. Another embarrassing, cringe, privileged Hollywood millionaire projecting a victimhood narrative by trying to paint the fans as racist or whatever, simply because they refuse to accept the slop that the company churns out. It's never going to change. They absolutely despise you, and they are to be mocked and mocked mercilessly. I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Bye for now.